now. I think you're right in the last cycle. There maybe wasn't as much to show for some of the work that was being done, and it was a lot of just narrative around games. I think this time around, you're actually going to see games coming to market and being released. And I think there's a wide range of games too, everything from kind of more idle staking games that we've now started to see in the last, call it year or so, all the way to like AAA games, right, that have been spending several years working on this. Star Atlas or Aurora, right, are great examples of that on Solana. And so I would expect us to continue to see those types of games and others looking for ways to have in-game assets that are NFTs. And if you think about the different kind of mechanisms for doing that, compressed NFTs actually give kind of Solana an opportunity to maybe differentiate themselves from other chains that are trying to use in-game assets, but don't necessarily have, call it, the low cost options or the speed and execution that's available here on Solana.
Welcome to Into the Forest with Pine. Today I'm here with Mack from Metaplex. Mack, can you kind of talk about what you're working on Metaplex and kind of what you guys do there?
Yeah, for sure. Nice to meet you all. I'm Mac. I lead BD and strategy at Metaplex. We've been really busy lately. A lot of different stuff we're working on, everything related to regular NFTs, programmable NFTs, compressed NFTs, all things digital assets on Solana.
Yeah, awesome. Can you kind of tell us, break down kind of what Metaplex does and kind of the services you offer to people on Solana?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the way to think about what Metaplex is, it's essentially the digital asset protocol on Solana. So about 99% of NFTs on Solana have been minted through the Metaplex protocol. And so that's everything from kind of the deepest part of the stack in terms of the standard that these NFTs are defined by on Solana, all the way up to different programs that are built on top of, say, our NFT standards, such as Candy Machine and others that make it easier to actually create NFTs and launch them out into the market. And so we have a lot of different developer tools and other things to make interacting with the Metaplex protocol extremely easy for developers, documentation, SDKs, and a lot of things to just make it Metaplex the go-to option for developers and creators on Solana.
Awesome. So one thing that I've noticed lately is that CNFTs are kind of all the rage on Solana. I looked at the data, and I think so far there's been 3 times as many CNFTs minted on Solana than there has been normal NFTs. Like, could you kind of explain to people how CNFTs differ from normal NFTs and kind of like how you guys see them being used?
Yeah, so the main advantage of compressed NFTs is just the low cost. And so what this does is it opens up a lot of different use cases that wouldn't be possible with regular NFTs. And so you can think about things like in-game assets, ticketing, different types of record keeping. There's a lot of experimentation that's also going on with airdropping right now. All these different use cases that would be really challenging to do with regular NFTs because it would just be too expensive are now possible with compressed NFTs. And so this is a technology that we built in collaboration with Solana Labs. And NFTs were kind of the first use case of this broader state compression technology that was developed. And so it's something that has seen a lot of success and traction on Solana. And in our conversations, both with people within the Solana ecosystem, but also those who are looking at Solana for the very first time, compressed NFTs is actually one of the first things that they always gravitate to and find really interesting about Solana.
Yeah, I've definitely thought that myself when I looked into them. So how do you guys kind of think that people are going to like start using these like different from like normal NFTs? Like how do you think the like low cost is going to like change the use cases that people kind of can use them on?
Yeah, so I think one example we're seeing right now is there's a really cool app called Drip. And what they're doing is they are finding kind of like a new way for collectors and creators to connect with each other. And so they're giving creators a platform to airdrop millions and millions of NFTs for free to these collectors. And these collectors, they sign up for this, they open up their wallet, and they could have an awesome piece of art from a collector or a creator that maybe they're not as familiar with. And this kind of starts off that journey of connecting that creator with that collector, and they might dig into it. Maybe they even go and buy a piece from that creator down the road. Maybe they got lucky and they got airdropped a rare one, which actually could be worth a material amount of SOL if, say, they were going to sell it on a marketplace. And so a really fun way for those two parties to interact. We're having a ton of conversations right now with different gaming platforms that are using compressed NFTs within games. And so there's a lot of opportunities, I think, like that that we'll continue to see more of. And I expect there to be a lot of use cases that we probably haven't even thought of yet, especially too when you think about like what is an NFT. It doesn't just have to be a piece of art or a PFP, right? What it can be is essentially just a piece of data. And you can use an NFT to represent that. And so I would expect us to see compressed NFTs used in a lot of different applications going forward.
Yeah. Kind of going to gaming, I saw recently Metaplex has put some money up in the speedrun hackathon for gaming. And I was kind of curious, like, I guess last cycle there was like a lot of excitement about NFTs and gaming, mostly on like Ethereum, and it didn't really materialize. Like, what do you think kind of is the difference now that like lets these games materialize, and kind of what's the technology that you think is going to drive a wave of like NFT adoption in gaming?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things there. For one, the time it takes to build a game is just really long, right? And so I think a lot of these game developers, like they've been at this for a while now. I think you're right in the last cycle. Excuse me, there maybe wasn't as much to show for some of the work that was being done, and it was a lot of just narrative around games. I think this time around, you're actually going to see games coming to market and being released. And I think there's a wide range of games too, everything from kind of more idle staking games that we've now started to see in the last, call it year or so, all the way to like AAA games, right, that have been spending several years working on this. Star Atlas or Aurora, right, are great examples of that on Solana. And so I would expect us to continue to see those types of games and others looking for ways to have in-game assets that are NFTs. And if you think about the different kind of mechanisms for doing that, compressed NFTs actually give kind of Solana an opportunity to maybe differentiate themselves from other chains that are trying to use in-game assets, but don't necessarily have, call it, the low cost options or the speed and execution that's available here on Solana.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Um, Going back to kind of what you guys are kind of working on, when you guys are building out products, how do you kind of see like what are you guys kind of focusing on when you're looking to improve your products for NFT like minters and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys see as success when improving the different Metaplex products when it comes to making NFTs, CNFTs, or new types of assets?
Yeah, so for one, we try and get feedback from the community. That's a huge part of it. For example, actually, within the Metaplex DAO recently, there was two MIPs or Metaplex improvement proposals that were passed, and two of those, and both of these actually were related to changes to the Metaplex program library that the community was asking for. And they were various improvements to actually specific characteristics of NFTs. So for one, it was important to the community that editions could be sold on multiple marketplaces at once in a non-custodial fashion. And so there was an MIP that was put up for that, and the DAO voted to pass that. And so that's a change that we're going to be implementing to the how editions work on Solana. Another example would be soulbound NFTs. There was a developer who's been very passionate about the fact that there's a lack of kind of solutions for soulbound NFTs, and that if we had those on Solana, there'd be a lot of different use cases that those could be applied to. And so he put forward a proposal within the DAO. The DAO voted to pass that, and that's another change that we'll be making and improving within the Metaplex program library. And so I think getting that feedback from the community is a really important part of our development. And fortunately, we have a mechanism for doing that, right? The DAO allows anyone that holds any amount of MPLX, which is a token that's the Metaplex token, to propose any changes to the Metaplex program library. And so that's something that I think is a really unique characteristic of Metaplex, is that we have this ability to have that relationship with the community and allow them to be involved in the development of the protocol.
Yeah, and so how do you think this like dynamic token standard kind of contrasts itself to the way that like token standards are made like on Ethereum?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's really cool about Metaplex and Solana is you've seen a lot of innovation within Solana NFTs at just a rate that I don't really think is happening on Ethereum. And at Metaplex, we feel really fortunate that we've been able to steward that growth. And so if you think about kind of our ecosystem versus theirs, we obviously have a newer NFT ecosystem on Solana, but there's already been over 100 million NFTs that have been minted. Like you pointed out, over 90 million of them are compressed NFTs, but that's still quite a few NFTs that aren't compressed NFTs as well, right? And so different challenges that maybe or that the NFT ecosystem has gone through over time, such as when royalties kind of disappeared overnight, other aspects like that. We've been able to address those concerns and develop solutions that kind of provide the market what it needs at a really fast rate. And so there's this really interesting theme that you'll see where NFTs on Solana will go through some sort of transition or some sort of market event. We'll adapt to them, we'll innovate, and we'll move past it and create kind of the solutions that creators and collectors need. Versus on Ethereum, they're still trying to figure out like how do they even deal with royalties, right? And so I think that's one characteristic of Solana NFTs that makes us really unique is just the speed and rate at which we're innovating. And it's been really cool to be at the protocol that's been at the forefront of that innovation. I think some other elements too, right, is that just NFTs are cheaper on Solana. And so I think that just opens up a much larger addressable market for all sorts of users. This could be someone who's getting into crypto for their first time, and maybe the NFT is kind of that onboarding vehicle. Or it could be someone who is using Solana for the first time, trying out different user experiences. They're coming from Ethereum, they come across Solana NFTs, and just the smoothness of, say, using a Phantom wallet or a backpack wallet combined with trading on Tensor Magic Eden and all the different kind of innovative things that we've done deep at the standards level with NFTs on Solana. Those are all a combination of experiences that, in my opinion, are just much smoother and a better user experience than what you would experience on Ethereum.
Yeah, so when it comes to kind of evolving these standards, do you guys kind of think of use cases that like you think would be interesting, or do you kind of just take with what people are kind of asking you? Like, do you guys kind of plan out like, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a combination of those two things, right? So if you look at, say, token metadata, that standard has been around for a while. We continue to make improvements to it, but those improvements are really based, I would say, on market demand. On compressed NFTs, are originally, right, these were actually developed for a partnership we had with Instagram at the time before Meta pulled back from kind of investing further in kind of their overall Web3 strategy. And so compressed NFTs, there wasn't necessarily like this existing demand from the average Solana user for compressed NFTs, but kind of once they discovered this new technology that we had built, they become a lot more interested in it and start experimenting with it. And so I do think it's a kind of a combination of those two things. Crypto obviously moves really fast, and so it's not always the easiest thing to kind of know where the puck is headed, but we certainly do our best, and I say we have a pretty good track record of it.
what's kind of like the most unexpected way you've kind of seen teams kind of use NFTs? Because they're a pretty open standard, so people can do a lot of stuff with it. But what was like a moment where you're like, wow, I didn't expect somebody to do that with the NFTs?
Yeah, that's a good question. You're right. There's a lot of different use cases that are going on these days. One thing that I think is really interesting is this intersection of NFTs and DeFi that's happening right now. So obviously DeFi on Solana is having a huge resurgence, which I think is overall like a huge positive for the space, both for crypto and specifically Solana. And so you're actually starting to see kind of that world merge with the NFT world. And so previously, over the last, call it 12 months, there were different, call it NFT fi things that are going on. So lending and borrowing related to NFTs. But now there was actually an interesting use case the other day that is kind of more DeFi specific in terms of fungible tokens, but they're using non-fungible tokens for certain aspects of the transaction. So there's this protocol. It's called RainFi, and essentially what they're doing is they're allowing peer-to-peer lending for fungible tokens. So for example, you could borrow USDC against your bonk or whatever other token, right? And so they're actually using a Metaplex NFT to represent the collateral on chain. So whatever collateral you put down, that's essentially tokenized and represented by a Metaplex NFT. And then when you repay that loan, the NFT is actually burned and then the funds are released to you. And so it's kind of like this interesting use case, right, where this NFT is not being used for a PFP or a piece of digital art. What it's being used for is just this on-chain record, essentially, of an interaction that's happening. And so personally, I think we'll start to see more and more things like that. But I'm really excited to kind of continue to monitor the evolution of this intersection between NFT and DeFi.
Yeah, that's really cool. So kind of what's on the horizon for Metaplex? Like what are you guys kind of thinking about coming forward and what are you guys kind of focusing your energies on right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's kind of like three things right now I would say that are top of mind. One is continuing to kind of put in additional improvements to token metadata as we head down this path of decentralization, making final improvements to the program, and making sure that the community feels confident that it's in a space, in a spot where it needs to be before reaching full immutability. Compressed NFTs is obviously another area. There's a lot of room for improvement on the developer experience side. And so that's where we're spending a lot of time is just like making it easier to use and interact with compressed NFTs. And then I'd say the third thing is more community related. So we're spending a lot of time right now on different community initiatives. As you mentioned earlier, we're actually sponsoring a track for Solana Speedrun, which is a gaming focused hackathon. There's about 150,000 MPLX that's up for grabs for those who win in that contest and make creative use of the Metaplex program library. You'll see us doing, I think, more kind of hackathon initiatives and things similar to that. Also, too, finding ways to give grants to teams that are participating in the ecosystem and contributing to the overall growth of the protocol. Those are all sorts of initiatives that we're focused on going into 2024, is making sure that the community feels like they're winning with us. Obviously, the Metaplex protocol has had a lot of traction and success since its inception. There's been over $1 billion of GMV, or sorry, primary GMV that's flowed through the protocol. There's over close to 15 million collectors in terms of those who've ever collected a Metaplex NFT. And so a lot of traction within the ecosystem, but we want the community to feel like they're participating in that success as well. And so finding ways to kind of win with them is certainly top of mind for us and a big focus in 2024.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you kind of see like major growth areas coming to like Metaplex and like I guess Solana overall? Like where do you see the growth coming from?
Yeah, so personally, I think NFTs will be huge this time around. If you kind of look at the last cycle, NFTs were like a fairly late cycle phenomenon, right? They took off on Solana starting in August of 2021, and really throughout the course of 2021, early 2022, were booming. And then obviously, as we got deeper into 2022, the market softened and we entered a bear market. If you think about this cycle, NFTs are front and center. The technology has come very far since the last cycle. And I do think in terms of all the different kind of like crypto applications that have found product market fit so far with kind of the everyday consumer, NFTs have had just as much success, if not more success, than any other application that I can think of on crypto. And so I would expect NFTs to be kind of front and center for crypto as a whole going through this cycle. And then the cool thing is there's a lot of eyes on Solana right now. And so that makes me especially excited for Solana NFTs. And I think the cool thing is it's not just kind of the use cases from the last cycle that people are focused on, although those are certainly important. I think we've done a really great job of kind of building out the culture side of NFTs on Solana, arguably one of two chains, or sorry, maybe one of three chains that has kind of that cultural element of NFTs alongside Ethereum and Bitcoin. But we also have opportunity to develop new use cases for NFTs that frankly aren't possible on these other chains. And so I think the combination of those two factors makes NFTs on Solana something certainly to pay attention to this cycle.
Yeah, I was thinking to me like since Ethereum's roadmap is expanding into like layer twos, and I was thinking one of the particularly strong suits of Solana is the NFTs compared to NFTs on like layer twos. Do you ever think about that, and kind of how do you think about the user experience when contrasting these two systems?
Yeah, so it's funny. I don't think about NFTs on layer twos. And I think the reason for that is what we found is it's incredibly challenging to build an NFT community and NFT culture, right? And for us on Solana, it's taken what over a year and a half or so to really build that out. And it doesn't just happen overnight. And so this idea that you could just spin up a layer two, people are going to bridge their capital over, and all of a sudden this like thriving NFT ecosystem is going to pop up, I think is very challenging. Now, some of them might be able to pull it off, right? There certainly will be some L2s, I think, where you're going to see material NFT activity. But I think in terms of if you're comparing kind of the addressable market and the opportunity that's in front of, say, Solana NFTs compared to another L2, I do think Solana is in a great position to kind of capture users, both those who are coming from Ethereum and checking out Solana NFTs for the first time, but also that first time NFT user who very possibly could also be a first time crypto user, right? They might not have ever done anything on chain before. And so when you compare just the user experience on Solana, how wallets work, how marketplaces work, the speed at which you can actually see the transaction finalized, all those things are really conducive to a very smooth user experience. And I think Solana NFTs are just a natural place for people to start.
Yeah, definitely. So like I guess coming up for you personally, like what excites you the most, like kind of going forward in this NFT ecosystem and like kind of what's coming up?
Yeah. So I think for us, it's been really interesting, right, to kind of watch this evolution from bear market to bull market. So, and throughout 2022, and certainly 2023, during this bear market, we've been heads down building. And so all the tech that you see right now is really coming to fruition because of all the work that we've already put in. And so to go from kind of straight building mode to now kind of playing some more offense and be going out there and kind of reaping the rewards of all the work that's been put in historically, that's really exciting for me. And so personally, I'm excited to continue doing that, to use and help propagate the technology that we've already built, continue to make improvements around things like we had talked about before, compressed NFTs, token metadata NFTs, etc. But that's certainly just like a shift, I think, in mindset a little bit. It is 2024 is certainly going to be Metaplex on offense, and I'm really excited for that.
That's awesome. So I don't know, being in crypto is kind of a non-consensus thing. Like what kind of got you into like being in crypto and like why did you decide to like start working in crypto?
Yeah. So I get that question a lot. I'm sure my wife also is wondering that question as well. So I come from a very different background than crypto. I come from a finance background. I started my career in investment banking. I worked on the buy side after that. And really working in crypto wasn't something that was really on my radar. And so I was kind of one of those people that I kind of in prior cycles, I had bought crypto in my Coinbase mobile app and just like kind of let it sit there, but wasn't actually like involved in crypto. And then it was in early 2022 that I started kind of going down the rabbit hole and started learning more about like crypto. Specifically, NFTs were my onboarding. That is when crypto kind of clicked for me, was using NFTs, kind of learning what NFTs represented, this idea of digital ownership. That is something that intuitively made a lot of sense to me. And so as I started going down the NFT rabbit hole, I just realized that this is an industry that frankly could change the world. And I think there's just not that many other industries that have that sort of growth opportunity ahead. And so my mindset actually was, okay, if I join crypto during the bear market, I'll acquire kind of the knowledge and the skills that I need to really capitalize it come bull market. So I ended up joining Metaplex in September 2022. I didn't time my entry. I thought I was kind of getting in at the bottom of the bear market. Turns out FTX happened 2 months later. And so that was certainly a surprise and kind of a pretty crazy first experience in crypto. But it's honestly been the most fun job I've ever had. And now I can't imagine doing anything other than working in crypto. And so when I talk to my friends that work in other industries, they're always just like really jealous of kind of the experience that I've got to have in crypto. To me, it's really fun every day showing up to work and learning something new. And the fact that in crypto, you kind of have to be all in to be successful in this space, which I think is a good fit for my personality. And so I'm really happy that I made the jump. Time in crypto is this very strange thing. So even though I've only worked in the space for 15 months, it feels like I've been working in the space for 5 years at this point. And so I'm really excited to continue working in crypto, particularly this bull market. I think is something. It's my first bull market, right? Working in the space, and so seeing kind of that transition from bear market to bull market has been really fun. And I'm excited for what lies ahead, both for myself personally, but also for Metaplex and for Solana.
Yeah. I think this is a great way to end things. Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. For those who are interested in learning more about Metaplex, feel free to follow us on Twitter. You can also visit our website at metaplex.com. And then you can find me on Twitter. My handle is dgenmack. But really nice to meet you all. And thanks for having me on the show, Jack.
Yeah. Okay. Stop. Okay, the recorded ending.